Oh, looks like, oh, there's Dave. Dave's back. Hello, Ray Dickey from South Carolina, Hudson Valley CAI and Association Help Now. We are covering many states. Responsibilities managers should not accept. There's going to be a lot of them. If you require CEUs, use your question feature. Type in, hey, I need CEUs, or just type in CEU, or type in, I need CEUs, please. Whatever you want to type in, it doesn't matter. As long as I get that, I'll know you need CEUs. Also, that question feature is how you stay in touch with us today. We love questions, especially this topic. I'd rather not use what I have. I'd rather have the audience, especially managers, tell me some of the wacky things that you've been asked to do, and I'll throw it at the panel and we'll see what they think. I don't use anyone's names, so feel free to ask whatever you like, but be careful. I could make a mistake, so don't send me anything too top secret. With that being said, let me have our panel introduce themselves with who I see first, and that is John.
Good morning, John Legumina from the Legumina Law Firm in Purchase, New York. We represent condominiums, homeowner associations, and co-ops from Manhattan up throughout the Hudson Valley areas.
All right, Valerie.
I am Valerie Garcia Giovanoli, and I am an attorney at McCabe Charter in Beverly. We're a full service firm for community associations headquartered in Columbia, South Carolina, with an office in Mount Pleasant, Charleston, South Carolina as well.
Cynthia, did you know that Valerie put criminals in jail? She's a crime fighter.
I mean, Valerie looks like she could just do that every day.
Well, she was a prosecutor. I don't think she physically threw him in jail, but
I mean, she probably could.
I could probably physically do it too, right? Come
on. Dave.
Good morning, everybody. I'll think Valerie must be like really popular with the Ethnic Day Parade thing. She's got the Giovanoli. Then I heard Garcia thrown in there. I mean, like very busy at the very busy when the ethnic parades come around. It's very busy. We got to get your own. We'll get like O'Reilly at the end, and then you'll definitely be tied up for most of the year. My name's Dave Byrne. I'm the partner in charge of my law firm's community associations practice, and we represent condominiums, co-ops, and homeowners associations in New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania.
All right. And Cynthia, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Ray. I'm Cynthia Jones. I'm a partner with Sellers, Ayers, Storch, and Lyons. We are located in Charlotte. We are a full-service community association firm in North and South Carolina, covering anything that those communities need in both of those states.
Now, Cynthia has warned us that she has a meeting, but she was kind enough to log in for now. So she has to leave about 10 after. So Cynthia, if I forget and you can't, we're in the middle of something, you can just leave. We'll remember. I'll remind the audience that you had to leave. So, because people would be worried about you if you just disappear all of a sudden. So, audience, and I love it. It's already coming in. What have you been asked? And, you know, we may be able to go through today with just the audience questions. Let's see what happens. It's already come in. This is from the audience. Have you been asked to do dog poop DNA for everyone and check this out when the poop is left? Have you been asked to do DNA poop for everyone?
For a client or at home? I have dogs at home. I've been asked a lot of crazy things.
We will assume that this is in regard. I think most people know this by now, that you can have a DNA database of dog poop, and a lot of associations do it. And if you find dog poop on the common property, you can match it. And then I guess you can, I don't know, put together some kind of fine or contact them or whatever you want to do. John, can a manager, is there any legal reason why a board could not ask a manager to do that?
I think you can do it. I certainly would include it in your management agreement as an additional service that you should get paid for, because my initial response was going to be, you know, let the professionals do it. There are companies that go out there and do it, but you know, unless your state requires a specific license to do it, it seems like something the managing agent could do if they're qualified, and if they could maintain the database, it would be pretty helpful.
So I put this under disgusting. Valerie, I knew we were going to run into some disgusting circumstances, so we're right off the bat. Here we are. How about managers having to facilitate the picking up? They have to pick up the dog poop. They have to put it in a bag. Should they be expected to touch dog poop?
I would just second what John said. If a manager is going to do that, they need to agree that that's part of their duties and obligations. I don't know if there's a cost high enough to get me to do that, but there are also professionals that do that, service companies that come in and can do that for them, and then the community can help with it as well. I would actually recommend that be a rule and a regulation, so that owners are picking up after their animals and have some type of enforcement remedies in case people are not doing that. But to the point, if the manager agrees to do that, make it part of your contract, get paid for it.
So Dave, and by the way, John and Valerie, if I misrepresent something you said previously, when I go to the next panelist, please stop me. I heard so far if the manager agrees to do it. Well, I meant, go ahead, Valerie, did you want to?
Yeah, when I say manager, I mean the management company, because I think especially for the bigger companies, they're going to make a decision for the company as a whole, and their managers are employees. That's the only thing I wanted to specify.
All right, so I guess there's two parts of this, Dave, right? There's a manager doing it, and they get instructions from the management company, which I guess if they have an issue at that point, that'd be between them and the management company. And there's a board communicating to a management company they want this service. Are they different circumstances?
I don't think so. I don't know that it's like an employment related issue to require a manager as part of his or her job to pick up animal waste and then tag it and book it. Like you could make you as part of the manager's job, he or she could be required to clean the bathrooms, I guess. I mean, it's unconventional, but I can't imagine you get quality people to do that job for very long, unless you pay them a decent amount of money. I would say that I agree. John's point was a good one. Like, most, at least that I deal with, management contracts have they have a fee and there's a scope of service, and sort of there's extra stuff that you charge for. So you obviously pass on costs for mailings. You charge extra to do mortgage questionnaires. You charge extra to have someone appear in court, that kind of thing. I mean, I don't see there's nothing unethical or inappropriate about a management company adding that on as a fee sheet. A couple $1,000. We'll have a guy. I mean, it would be just even their own person. It wouldn't have to, instead of hiring out a professional company, maybe there's a person for that management company that goes around and does it, and you pay $3,500 to do it. Whatever the number is.
All right, I'm going to play devil's advocate, Dave, and go over to Cynthia. I think it's completely inappropriate. If you want to have a professional setting and have people feel like they're real professionals, I think asking them to pick up dog poop would not be part of their job description. Nothing against people that pick up dog poop, but Cynthia, you see what I'm getting at here? We're trying to have a professional setting. Does that play a role here?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's exactly what I was going to say. Can the manager do it? Of course they can be contracted to do it, but is that the highest and best use for our managers? Absolutely not. Hire a company to do it. The manager should be managing the association. They don't need to be walking around picking up dog poop. They don't need to be putting down pine straw. Let them manage the community. It's not their best use.
I'm not surprised. I got 2 comments on this already. I'm tired of getting photos of dog poop. Yes, I hear this all the time. There's a lot of dog poop stuff here. Would you need something in the governing documents to do a DNA dog poop as a requirement?
Ray, typically the managers are getting pictures of dog poop as a complaint so that they can take whatever their enforcement policy may be, not necessarily to voice to the manager to get out there and pick it up.
No, yeah, I understand. And then also, many managers have told me people just show up with a bag of dog poop, whether they have DNA testing or not. For some reason, it's not good enough to just report to the manager that there's dog poop in the community. They feel it necessary to bring the dog poop in a bag. I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's off topic, but it's an interesting question. Would you need something in the governing docs to do a DNA dog poop as a requirement in regard to the owners? Very quick, John, can that just be a rule?
Yeah, I mean, so boards have blanket, like pretty broad authority to enforce the rules and regulations. And if you have dog poop rules, like, yeah, this is part of it. So I don't think you need a specific amendment to your governing documents. I think you could just put it in your rules.
Okay. Anybody else in the panel think that you cannot just make that a rule?
I think it could be a rule if the animal is going to be in or using the common area. I think it'd be questionable if you got a little teacup chihuahua that you keep in your backyard and you're going to require DNA testing. I think that would be a lot more difficult to enforce.
Well, that's interesting. Dave, what do you think? In New Jersey, would there be a difference, you think, possibly if someone had the dog only on their own premises and never took it on the common area? Could they make the DNA as a rule, or would they need to do something in the governing docs?
It would obviously depend. A lot of governing documents, declarations, master deeds, bylaws will either preclude animals except in the following way, or allow animals without regulation. That would be a driving force. But in the end, rules have to be reasonable. And Valerie's right. I mean, if your dog is kept on your own lot in a large HOA project or something and not walked on common property, then the rule might be unreasonable, I gather. I don't know what it is. I mean, I don't even know. And also, I don't know how unreasonable it is to get dog DNA. It may be an expensive, unreliable process. I mean, who's the guy out there that you go to? Is he like on a street corner somewhere and swabs your dog's cheek? I don't know.
It doesn't work like that. Okay. So Cynthia, you know how I do these LinkedIn shorts? You're going to give me words of wisdom about dog poop. And if it's okay, I'm going to put your picture. I'm going to put dog poop, or maybe I'm going to put a picture of a dog pooping next to you.
Oh boy.
Why do I keep doing this to myself?
No, I won't do that. But give us your words of wisdom as far as dog poop, DNA testing, owners, private.
I mean, if it's a real bad problem, I have some communities that do it. They've got lots of common areas. They've had lots of issues. And if they're willing to spend the money to do it, okay, that's certainly something they can do. I'm really with Valerie, though. If it's not on common area, if you're talking about owner's lot, I don't like it.
Cynthia said they do it.
I was going to ask you all how much money you've made over the years on dog poop related issues, but I won't.
You don't want to know.
Okay. Oh, great question. I'm so glad this person asked it. My old union staff in New York wouldn't even pick up poop or dead animals. The union prohibited that. Spent a lot of time discussing unionized managers. I am not picking up any trash or poop. And with that being said, I will go back the other way. I love this question, Cynthia, and it actually ends up with a lot of debate sometimes with the audience. Audience, use your question feature. As a manager, should I remove dead geese or dead goose because the company contracted cannot get out for 2 days? Cynthia.
Yeah, I mean, look, can you? Sure. But again, should you? Is that what you're going to be doing as a manager? No, that's not really what I want my managers doing. I want them more high level, but maybe there's somebody else that can come remove the goose for you if you need it done before the 2 days are up. Who knows? It might be gone in the 2 days.
Well, Dave, let's say it's not gone for 2 days. People keep running it over and its guts keep getting pushed further and further and further, and it's getting on people's tires. Well, let's just make it not that complicated. But anyway, you get the point. Is it all right for a board to say, look, I'm sorry, but somebody's got to go do it, and you're the only person?
I mean, there's really two things here. First is you're talking to lawyers, so I don't see anything illegal or if it's in a contract, if it's negotiated, it's nothing. Nothing jumps out at me as being something that is not legally appropriate. But Cindy keeps going back to the point of sort of what do we want our managers to do, and that's really sort of not a lawyer thing. I mean, she's right about that, meaning that it's like a thing that you would really talk to professionals in the industry about, where the marketplace is, what works, can we hire good people if we make them do this? But I don't know that nothing jumps out at me legal wise about any of this. It's more like we really want managers coming in business suits and then going out and picking up dog poop. It just seems odd, but that's not a lawyer thing, really.
But Valerie, these are gray areas. Not everyone is going to have in their contract whether you need to or not need to pick up a small dead animal that cannot be picked up because the company contracted cannot do it.
I don't disagree with Cynthia, highest best use, but I think I would commend anyone that would go out there, board member, resident, manager. I mean, it's just the right thing to do. Be helpful. It's actually one of the core values of my law firm. And I manage my law firm. I'm a partner here. And sometimes I see toilet paper on the bathroom floor and I pick it up because I'm setting an example for the people underneath me. And if I expect them to do it, then I should be able to do it. So I would commend someone going out there and cleaning it up. I think it helps the entire community. It prevents, maybe vultures start picking on it. It gets smeared, it creating some other type of mess, or maybe a pet gets over and starts eating it, gets sick. So I think it would be helpful. But legally, Dave's right. I mean, there's no real legal issues in this. That's my take on it.
Dave denies this, but don't hire Dave because he leaves pistachio shells all over the place.
I've-
I witnessed it. He
I've
denies
never
it.
I've never eaten pistachios in
I
my life.
have seen, or peanuts or whatever. I witnessed
Peanuts
it. There
for
was
sure,
peanuts
not
all over the
pistachios.
place. It was terrible. It was
That's,
very
you know,
terrible.
I think what's interesting about this animal thing too is it's a geographical thing. It's a cultural type of thing. There are managers that are doing high rises in Jersey City, let's say where I am, and if there's a dead, God forbid, I don't know, a dead bird out on the step in front of the building, I don't know that manager doesn't. But if you're maybe in the Panhandle in Florida or in some other location, it may be a natural thing for people to do I mean, a lot of it depends on sort of what comes naturally. Like what Valerie's saying, it may be natural for some people just to clean up an area because that's just always how they've done it.
Well, I'll go to John and be devil's advocate here a little bit. I don't know if I agree with Dave 100%. I meet a lot of different high-rise managers, and some of them would probably go out there and pick up a dead bird, and other ones wouldn't go anywhere near it. A lot of different high-rises, different economic levels. But John, take us out of this with dead animals.
Is it Johnny Carson exit? Take us out of here with dead
I think that
animals.
was a dead animal. So if you have a bird strike on your high rise in Atlantic City, you just call Ray Dickey and he'll
Yeah.
he'll get it. Yeah, I mean I agree with everyone, right? It's you probably can do it unless you have specific licensing issues well, like I'm thinking like you could have a property manager exterminate, right? But you don't. To Cynthia's point, like you don't. Well, it's not really normally part of property management duties, but like if there's like a one-off and you got to remove a dead animal somewhere, you could do it. But is it something managing agents normally do? No, it's like it's not in contracts I've ever seen.
Well, this brings us to kind of a broad concept here, though, John. When you mentioned pest control, my first thing was managers getting in trouble for performing tasks that they're not qualified to do so. Pest control, you need a license and there's chemicals involved. Also, there could be rules, laws regarding the disposal of dead animals that you may not know. You may take that geese or goose and throw it in the garbage, and you may be violating some kind of government. So why don't you run with a little bit how, a manager for doing a good deed could be held against them.
Well, geese, geese is a good example because you have, it's not just animal control. You have DEC requirements. So you can't just go out. I know we need Dave Chusky here, right? To talk about addle and the eggs, but like there are certain things you can and cannot do. So, so that's why you need to consult the professionals.
Okay. All right, let me jump around here and let me get to some of my broad strokes. A lot of stuff coming in from the audience, which I love. Knowing when to say no is part of doing your job well. Anybody on the panel disagree? Okay, good. Dave?
No.
Okay, just checking. Let's do broad strokes here. The line. Is there a line? I know these are easy questions. And if so, where? Valerie, how can a manager determine where the line is? Maybe they can't.
Well, I don't think that's like a bright line rule, no pun intended, but it goes back to, the dog poop. You may ask one manager to do it that's not in their contract, that's beneath them. They say no. And you may ask another who says, yeah, I'll do it. It helps people out. Maybe that manager believes in going the extra mile. They might also be more valued by the community. But I don't think there's a bright line rule to know where the line is on saying no. You could arguably say, I'm only doing what's in my contract. That's a safe place to be legally. But again, being helpful when the situation calls for it. You know, we usually use some type of third-party vendor for this service, but they are not available for a week. And this is not something that is illegal or requires special licensing. Yeah, sure, I'll go out and help. Or I think earlier we talked about having maybe an a la carte menu for additional services. I'll help, but you know, at this reasonable fee might be a good solution.
So this is kind of very much on a case-by-case basis because there's so many factors involved. This is
Yeah.
a really hard one to do a broad stroke. Anybody disagrees as I move along, just stop me and I'll go back. Let's get some of these out of the way that are pretty obvious but are important. Dave, relaying legal advice. This one is kind of a tricky one too. Note the word relaying legal advice. Do you know what I'm getting at with this one?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I would think if you told me this, it would be manager contacts lawyer for opinion on something, and then manager has to relay it back to the board. That's what I would think
Right.
it is.
Right. So maybe it's a simple communication. I contact Cynthia. Cynthia tells, well, the answer is no. Well, maybe I can relay that to the board, but maybe Cynthia explains it. I'm not a lawyer. And then I tell it to the board and I screwed up a couple words here and there. This seems kind of dicey for managers. Dave.
Oh, I think you said Cynthia.
Well, I was using Cynthia as an example of the lawyer telling me.
Well, yeah, I know. I think it's a very big problem when the response is nuanced, which unfortunately a lot of lawyer things are, even with respect to even what we've been talking about. A lot of times the answer is not yes or no because, frankly, it's not up to lawyers to make decisions for boards. So if a board needs to know whether it can do something, the answer might not be yes or no. It might be, well, you can, but have you voted? Have you given this notice? Are your motives pure? I mean, there's all kinds of different qualification sort of things that are relevant. So it's very difficult. From a lawyer perspective, sometimes you almost have to make those communications via email to make sure that even though it may be more difficult for the board because it's more drawn out, it'll cover you in the event there's miscommunication down the road.
Cynthia, Dave used the word nuanced, right? But like, I'm not an attorney. I'm not going to determine whether your commentary is nuanced or not, correct?
Yeah, I mean, but he had a great point. Like a lot of us, even if we have a conversation with either the manager or the board, we're following up in writing because we want it in writing. We don't want there to be any confusion about what we're saying. Do I want to have a conversation with the manager and have them turn around and try and relay what I said to the board? No, that's why I'm going to want to send an email to follow up and make sure they've got it in writing so there is no confusion because they're not going to necessarily know the nuances that we do.
John, I think this one is important. I don't know why a manager would take this on. I don't know why they just wouldn't communicate it via writing.
Yeah, so I agree with you. Back in the pre-internet days, it was commonplace to, I spoke to the attorney, this is what he said, but it's so easy to just forward an email and have the attorney put it in writing. I would say 99% of the time, that's what I do. Even if my clients don't want it, I prefer to have it in my words. And as probably everyone in this panel will say, you know, a few months could go by, a few years could go by, and someone will say, oh, you know, like Dave Byrne said this. And then Dave Byrne could say, actually, no, here's exactly what I said. And, you know, if you drop a couple of lines, and it could be misconstrued.
Valerie, I'll go another angle even further, right? Maybe it's a new attorney. You don't know them. They're not very ethical and they gave bad advice. You relate it and they say, I never told the manager that.
I think if the lawyer does not send the manager an email memorializing the advice given verbally, then the manager can do that. Email the attorney and say, we talked about this. This is my understanding of what your legal advice is. I want to confirm that this is a proper understanding before I relay this to the board. And then require that attorney to confirm that conversation. I agree with everything the panel said before me, but I do think it's worth also maybe noting, because this happens to me a lot, and I think managers do this. The managers oftentimes know their boards better than we do. Sometimes we haven't ever even met them. Sometimes they may be extremely sophisticated or not sophisticated, or engineers that want more technical details. And so when I relay advice, the manager may say, instead of forwarding your email, because I know my board, they might want something a little more simple. This is what I'm going to say. Is this okay? I think I would recommend to the managers, to the extent you are rewording or delivering it in a more simplistic manner, to get the attorney's approval of that. Don't do that on your own. Don't say, okay, Valerie, I see your complicated legal opinion. I'm going to give my own, my interpretation of that opinion to the board.
Hey,
Excellent.
Ray, can I add something to that too, that I've heard of happening recently? Sometimes attorneys, we give complicated opinions because they have to be complicated. And so we fully understand sometimes
Right.
they're hard to read. I've heard sometimes, to make it easier for the board, instead of changing it in the manager's words, they're taking an email or taking an opinion letter and putting it into AI to summarize what we have said, and then providing the summary to the board for them to read. And I just think I'm going to say, don't do that. Please don't do that, because oftentimes what we're finding is the summary is incorrect.
And also,
That
let
seems,
me piggyback, Cynthia. That's a great point. I'd piggyback off of that because, one, there's a bunch of opinions now coming out that say when you put something into AI, if it's private, that you've then disclosed attorney-client confidential communication, you've waived it. A manager doesn't have authority to make that waiver. But secondly, there was a case where in litigation, the court actually required the chat be produced with AI. And so if the manager's putting the attorney's advice on something that may be in litigation into AI, and that somehow comes out in court, that could be disclosed to the other party
okay.
as a waiver of the privilege.
Now you guys are getting me off track. All you lawyers are super excited about AI. Oh my gosh, you're just like super excited about it.
Cynthia started it.
That I know. That's a whole other topic. Okay. But thank you for sharing.
The ladies are bringing the truth. What are you going to do? They're bringing it.
Owners don't understand why we don't knock on their doors to talk to them about a violation versus mailing a notice. Also, why don't we go onto private property? People don't understand. I am not fixing toilets either. Can a manager refuse to do it even if it's in the contract? I assume, panel, that would be an issue between the manager and their management company.
Yes.
Okay. Oh my God, aggravating to no end, and the expectations that we have to pick it up. So a lot of people are saying, yes, pick up, pressure, pressure. What if the board asked the manager to sign the violation and fine letters? Okay, let me read this one from scratch, because it's a really good one. What if the board asks the manager to sign the violation and fine letters because the board doesn't want to be harassed or threatened? Cynthia.
Oh man, I think if I don't want just the manager signing it in their name. I mean, a lot of times the obligation for the violations and the specific process for violations is on the association itself. Can the manager do it as the agent for the association? Yeah, probably, if their contract allows them to. I don't have a problem with that, but should they just sign Cynthia Jones? No, the association itself is the one enforcing those covenants. So they can do it as maybe the agent, but that's it, not in their own name.
I have their name, Dave. Why not, like Cynthia saying, why not just put ABC Association or something? Why do you have to put anybody's name on there? You can have contact somebody afterwards. But...
You don't. I don't think any of this is for a lawyer to worry about. I mean, I don't. Does anybody sign anything anyway at this point? Anyway, and also I think I've seen letters that just say sincerely Board of Trustees or something. Yeah. I mean, management companies, I don't know that I've ever seen a management company say like, make sure you take your garbage in by 4 o'clock, sincerely manager. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I have. I'm not sure. I'd have to think about it.
John or Valerie, anything to add? Okay.
Managers to sign them, and I think that's totally fine. I think there are smaller communities and smaller management companies here in rural areas. Wow, that's a hard word for me to say. And they sign it because I think they know most of the community. They're at the meetings, and but they're always very clear in the body that the board of directors, or per the association's policy, blah blah blah, it's very clear that it's not, I am not finding you. I am not finding that you violated the covenants. I'm just the messenger. I'm the manager. Contact me if you want to resolve it, kind of thing. And they serve as the liaison. But I just make that note because, well, some of my clients do sign them, and I don't think there's anything wrong so long as it's clear in the body. Because the reverse is, if it's unclear, I've had magistrate suits against the management company saying, you fined me. Well, the management company didn't fine them. They were just notifying you. So I think it needs to be clear on who is fining them. If the board, the directors don't want the blowback from that, then they shouldn't serve on the board.
You know, John, a lot of people don't understand how things work because they're dumb, right? They're owners, and the manager signs it, and they're going to think like the manager sent the fine in. I just don't see why any manager or management company like Valerie just mentioned would. Why put your name on there? Why not just make it?
Yeah, so I agree. So the point, there's 2 points, right? So manager, you're an agent for a disclosed principal. You're not personally liable regardless of who brings a lawsuit, but you don't want to be named in a lawsuit, right? So then just to be even clearer than you have to be, just write, like Dave said before, just write like whatever the property is, board of managers, or managing agent as agent, that's sufficient. You don't, you make it even clearer, but in no circumstances is the property manager personally or individually liable for a violation notice.
Okay. And by the way, Cynthia had to jump off. I told her just to jump because I was never going to be able to pay attention to time and give her a chance to say goodbye. So sorry about that. Thanks for being here, Cynthia. I appreciate you squeezing that in. Something about more animals. Gross. I don't pick up dead animals. We insist on calling a company. This is too gross for so early in the morning. This is like nothing. I could get bring up a lot more gross stuff than this. The only issue with making an exception is that it becomes an expectation. I like it. Yes, serve and draw a line. That's really good. The only issue with making an exception is that it becomes an expectation.
Bumper sticker. I love it.
Did anybody hear that on the panel? I never heard that before. That's excellent.
Never heard that.
Yes, it does set the tone for the manager to pick up what they see, but it sets up an expectation from those that see it be picked up. Somebody that's a completely different person. They both sent it in at the same time. Interesting. It's different for
It's like a husband bringing a wife flowers. Can't just do it once.
Yeah, that's why I never do it, because then they expect it every day.
Are you married, Dave?
I don't know why you want to know.
Valerie, the way Valerie
What's up,
said
Valerie?
yeah, the way Valerie said that, Dave.
Yeah,
Was
what's
like,
up?
Dave, are you married?
Ray,
Like,
when do we got their next trip to South Carolina? What's up?
I don't know. It's like Valerie was just so hard to believe for Valerie to think that you were married. Okay.
Oh, you took it that way. Okay.
I 100% heard it that way. So,
all right. Well.
all right. Dave's wife is a super nice person. Super.
She
nice.
never watches this, so I should be good.
Well, if she's watching, I was not hitting on your husband. Let's be
She
clear.
doesn't want to watch it. She'd be too cringeworthy. All right. The only issue with different for on-site versus portfolio managers. Different for on-site versus portfolio. I assume they're talking about expectations though, because the legalities wouldn't change, just the responsibilities would. Correct, panel? Am I wrong? Okay.
Yeah, go back to your contract.
It should be the same.
I had a board member remove one for me because I couldn't get it removed ASAP. That's interesting. That's nice, right? There's a dead animal out there. The board is getting flack about it. They know that's not really fair to ask the manager, so they go up there and pick it up. Anything wrong with that, panel?
Common gentlemanly ways of living.
Plus I think it says a lot about the manager. I think they're obviously well respected and the board cares about them.
Yeah.
We have rats in Jersey City. We have dead deer here. And before the company comes out, the coyotes will drag them into the woods. It's unbelievable. That's in Jersey City, New Jersey.
Yeah, I don't know where there are woods in Jersey City. Interesting.
People commenting about where do you get rid of these materials? Is there a liability in regard to fecal matter for where to put it and dispose it? This one I'm not going to get to. I'm sorry, it's a little bit too long. What about the fear of blue flu? I was going to mention that too. Like you could get a disease or something if you're picking up dead animals. I think you have to know what you're doing.
I think you're assuming that risk if you go out there and pick the dead animal up and it's not your legal obligation to do so. Which
Yeah.
kind of goes into assuming assumption of risk and other capacities. So we're talking about essentially doing things that might not be in your contract, and setting expectations. I think it's, since we're all lawyers and we're talking about the legalities, that if I'm going to go out and maybe direct traffic where there's been an accident and I direct traffic into another accident, you know, I've kind of good Samaritan rule. I've kind of assumed a risk and I'm taking on something that may not have been a duty or an obligation, but now I have the obligation to perform at the required standard of care. So there are some legal issues in there. I don't know about biohazards of fecal matter and the other stuff that the commenter was mentioning. But again, if a manager is going to take it upon themselves to go out and clean that stuff up and then get sick, I don't think they necessarily have a claim against the HOA, especially if they weren't asked to do it. They're assuming that risk.
All right, so let's get rid of the dead animals, because the traffic one is a really great one to talk about, right? Because this one comes up. There's something going on, it's unexpected, and the manager goes out there to direct traffic. And sometimes it's like at high rises where I live, something just kind of goes on out there unexpected, and somebody does need to direct traffic. And I've seen our manager go out there and direct traffic, because otherwise nobody's gonna be able to get in the garage. It really becomes a big deal. But should the manager be doing that, Valerie?
Well, if they are going to do that, they need to be conscientious that there's a standard of care. And I think this is state specific, but if you're going to go out there and do that, you need to exercise the reasonable standard of care. Don't be negligent about it, such that you could cause some additional injury. But yeah, they need to be aware of that if they're taking on that role, that they're assuming a duty. And John and Dave may have different perspectives on that based on their states of practice.
Oh, Dave, I've heard a lot of different perspectives on this from different lawyers. Managers directing traffic in a kind of an emergency situation.
It's tough. It's tough. I don't know. I mean, I everything you do creates a liability and will be a lawsuit, and you'll get in trouble if it goes poorly. But a lot of people operate that way anyway. Like Valerie said, if some issue, there's some danger, and you go out and try to make it better, you have some immunity from that, unless you act like an idiot. But day-to-day situations present a lot of challenges. Everything you do creates a liability. You just have to decide whether it's a liability you're prepared to live with or not.
No good deed goes unpunished, right? That's the saying.
Yeah.
And I want to be clear that if I was advising a client or anybody, if we call 911, get law enforcement out there to do the traffic,
Yeah,
stuff.
but we're private property. You're not going to call the Atlantic City Police Department to come out. Don, Dave said something that jumped out at me. You're covered somewhat, right? He said some, not all the way. So a manager goes out there, tries to do the best effort they can, and it's possible they're not covered completely. That makes me nervous.
I mean, my advice is just don't do it. You are, if you absolutely have to, and there's, it's an emergency, maybe that's an exception, but you're, as David already mentioned, you're exposing yourself. You also, like, if it's some type of project going on and you're helping out, that's the contractor's responsibility. Site safety is their responsibility. If you take on site safety, you're jeopardizing the independent contractor relationship and maybe taking on some liability, not only just for the property manager, but for the association. So try not to do it.
Boy, that's a tough one, especially at a place where I live, because it's just going to get backed up right down the street, right around the block. It would just be a disaster. I feel sorry for the manager that has to decide what to do. But somebody had a good idea. Why not just let the board members do it? So, that would be nice. Good managers know where their job ends. Little tidbit there. This one comes up. I'll start with John. This one always ends up being a debate. Should a manager accept a subpoena? John.
A subpoena on the board?
You expand on it. Some kind of,
Yeah, I mean, it's so like, it depends what type of subpoena it is. If it's on the managing agent, yeah, like it's silly to play games. You're gonna just get it to your attorney. Don't duck it. But should you accept it on behalf of someone else, like a board member, I would say that you should serve the board member personally, but, it could be that it's coming and you don't want process service knocking on everyone's door. So it's similar, right, to like you could accept as a lawyer, you could accept service. So
Okay.
yeah, I don't have a big problem with it.
All right, Dave, let's keep it unexpected. Obviously, if the lawyer tells you, you're going to know the circumstances, but like John said, well, you could take if it's a subpoena to this person or if it's that one. Here we are back to legal nuances, and here we are back to managers. I wouldn't know the difference between if a subpoena is for me or if subpoena for the board. What shouldn't there just be a blanket rule here? Should a manager accept the subpoena?
I don't know that it. I think it depends. I don't know that you. I mean, sometimes you can't really. There's not like acceptance of a subpoena. I mean, like if it's done correctly, it gets given. It gets given to you. Like it's there.
Somebody knocks on the door.
What door? Like an office?
Okay, look
door?
at my building. Let me give you this scenario. That you may not get to the manager. You're the front desk person.
yeah.
They're
Yeah.
definitely not going to take it. Okay. So you're not going to get in here. Should the manager go out there and accept the subpoena, or should they just say no, tell them to get lost?
It goes back to what John said. The manager can definitely screw around, and then the guy will be out there hiding in the bushes when you leave for your car, and he'll jump out and go, "Hey, subpoena."
That's not the question, though. That's like a
That's
possible
what'll happen.
scenario. Should a manager accept a subpoena?
The answer is it depends. You may not want to accept the subpoena. If you refuse to accept the subpoena, the guy may go away and never bother you again, in which case you never have to be bothered with him. But if you refuse a subpoena, he might be in your driveway when you get home. I mean, it depends on the scenario. John's totally right. I've accepted subpoenas on behalf of clients because they didn't want to be bothered individually, but or I could have told them just keep hiding and you'll never get it, but they didn't want to be bothered.
All right. Okay. Of course, like, all right. So Valerie,
I think to make it a little simpler, I agree with John and Dave. I think it depends, but I think for purposes of our audience, maybe if you don't understand what you're accepting, have never talked about it, don't understand, don't have authority, no one's ever given you authority, you haven't been trained on it, maybe safest thing is to decline. Then go to the lawyer, tell them, I would ask to take a picture of it because I want to know what it is. And that way you get some breathing room to go to the attorney and say, is this something that I should accept? We get people that show up at the law firm here and they have something for maybe a client we represent and they want to serve us, but I'm not the registered agent. I don't know anything about it. I haven't been authorized to accept service, so I decline it pretty often. But I would say if a manager regularly accepts service as the registered agent for the HOA, is trained to do it, understands it, then I don't think there's anything wrong with them accepting service. But if a manager gets hit with a subpoena and doesn't know, I think the safest thing for them is just to decline and say, I'm not authorized to do that.
If you grab it and take a picture of it, do you guys think that constitutes acceptance? I don't know what the answer is. I'm just wondering because it might be.
I think it would. I guess the way I'd handle it, at least with our deputy sheriffs around here and some process servers, if someone's saying, look, it's to a corporation, I am a person, I don't know if I'm authorized to accept this, and therefore, and I'm telling you that, so can I take a picture? You can come back next week, give me your phone number, I'll get back with you. If you try to make that deputy sheriff or that process server's job easier, that you're going to look into it, they may work with you.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I think in New York it works a little different. My understanding is that you don't really get into acceptance. It's just here it is, and they just drop it, like Dave was hinting at before. Like the process server just,
right.
What's your name, Valerie? And they just,
but that doesn't matter though. That's not the question. So I think what Valerie said, which sounded reasonable to me, if it's written out to the association, if it's not, basically, Valerie, what I heard, if it's not written out to you and it doesn't have your name on it,
yeah,
just respectfully say, you know what, it's not written out to me. I'm not going to accept this. Do you mind if I take a photo of it? And
yeah,
I'll be happy to find out
if it's
in
written
advance.
out to the manager, I think they're right. There's no way around it. They're going to get served. If it's written out to some other person, I think the process servers are trained not to serve John Smith for Jane Smith's subpoena because they don't have the authority to accept service under our rules, at least. But when we're talking about just an HOA, an entity name on the subpoena, then yeah, I think there's a question on whether or not the person you're serving has authority to accept it. or to receive it.
Yeah,
Man.
also, it could be a lawsuit against the association that the insurance company is in the process of hiring attorneys to defend. So in that case, Valerie's right, like the attorneys actually need to know about it. So, it should be sent to them.
Oh, sorry, audience. I guess this one is a gray area. Check with your
Yeah.
own. No, this is perfect. Check with your own individual professional on this one because it's obviously there's a lot of different angles with it. A lot of more dead animal stuff. I guess this is a pretty common thing. Somebody's asking about wasp nests and taking. I'm going to assume, panel, you should not be messing with any kind of bees nests or anything or trying to tackle that. I can think of 1,000 reasons why you shouldn't be doing that. Does anybody on the panel not have 1,000 reasons that they could communicate why you should not, if you're a manager, take down a wasp nest? Okay.
I think that's pretty straightforward.
Even if you're not a manager.
All right. Finally, not a dead animal one. All right. And I'm reading them as I see them. That's why sometimes I get disjointed. We are often asked for vendor recommendations. Well, that one I like right off the bat. I supply a list of vendors homeowners seem pleased with. Okay, so this is for interesting. This is for recommendations for owners to have. I need a painter. I need this done. Okay. I need new cabinets. This is something where owners are asking the manager for recommendations. I love this question. It includes a disclaimer stating that the management company does not endorse any of these vendors, and it is the responsibility of the homeowner. All right, Valerie, this is kind of a common one. Should a manager offer a recommend? Let's just stick with the manager, not an approved board list, not an approved association list, just the manager. I'm John, the owner. I say, hey, could you recommend a painter? And the manager says, sure. This guy just did a paint job for Mary. Everybody loves him. Is that acceptable?
I am going to say yes with that disclaimer that you mentioned.
I'm surprised you said yes. Is that fall into, let me ask it. Is everything always a professional? Like that's something people do. Is there a line there? Because we're still people, right? But if you're at work, are you always at work 100%? Because you may ask me for a recommendation, right, Valerie? And I tell you a painter, but what about, you know what I'm getting at? Maybe you can communicate it better.
Yeah, I mean, it's just in what capacity are you operating? And I think that's in the, for lack of a better word, eye of the beholder. It's kind of like an attorney. I know I'm not your attorney and I'm not giving you legal advice right now, but the recipient of that advice or what I'm saying may interpret it differently. So it's like a director operating as, well, I'm just a resident, a neighbor. That's how I said that thing on social media, not as a director, but it could come across as an official communication from a director. So I think that addresses that point. But otherwise, I think as long as you've got some type of disclaimer that you're not endorsing, and this is just a, not necessarily a recommendation, but a few vendors that could assist that you know about that have experience in the community, I think I'd be comfortable with that.
Dave, a lot of people are just managers, they're not going to pull out a form to sign, right? Hey, I'm looking for a good painter, right? Well, here's Bob's business card, or call Bob, or sometimes they say, has Bob done good work? Does a manager have to get I know you guys are lawyers, so this is what you're always going to bring up. So thank you. But Dave, does a manager have to feel they have to get a form out and sign this contract before I tell you that Bob's a good painter?
No, I don't think so. I don't think giving people names and numbers of potential workers creates any liability at all, unless even if they're paying, even if the vendor's paying you, frankly. I mean, that would relate to your obligations to, like, if you have a contract with the management company or kickbacks, things like that. But that's a real small subset. I mean, if somebody just says, hey,
okay,
who are guys that are doing some painting in the neighborhood? I mean, I don't know anything about that.
But John, I'm going to play devil's advocate. I own the management company, right? And why would I want my manager to do this? Why go through the aggravation? Dave just said the paving company, the guy does an absolutely horrible job. Now it's aggravation for me. Once again, people aren't reasonable. Should a manager put themselves in this position?
Yeah, I mean, it's while I agree, like you could do it with a good disclaimer. It goes back to what we said in the very beginning. Like, is this what you want your management doing? You might want to stay clear of this because you know, the first bad recommendation is going to come back. You're going to haunt you.
But I feel bad because these are just common things that human beings do. But I guess it's our job just to tell people all the awful things that can happen and they can decide for themselves.
I feel bad for the managers. Imagine knowing like a really great, awesome painter who's efficient, economic, and you're like, can't tell you.
Being a
help you out."
manager is just so hard. It just, you really want to be nice to people and stuff. And then you have opportunities where you can be, and then you just can't sometimes. But I don't know. It's just so hard. Sometimes I feel bad about these live streams, but I feel like it's our job just to warn people that things could go bad. But recently, someone tried to serve me as an HOA president for a foreclosure lien. I refused, called my manager, and they came to the property to receive the summons. Okay, interesting. Any commentary on that? All right, Valerie?
No, I mean,
Okay.
I think the director probably could, the process server could have served them and it would have been effective in my state.
I don't know. If I was a board member, you're already doing enough as it is without accepting summonses, but who knows?
But that goes back to the acceptance part. I think with that,
Right.
a process server does it, signs an affidavit, and then the director says, hey, they didn't have the authority. I don't think you win that argument. You're a director. You have the authority to accept.
Right.
Summons
And there's
complaints.
a heavy reliance on this word acceptance. Subpoenas and don't get accepted a lot of times. They just get given to you, and the guy, sometimes the lawyer stuff on television is totally fake, but when it comes to subpoena service, the stuff on TV is kind of accurate. Like, hey, how you doing? Are you Bob Jones? Yeah, that's me. How are you? Here, you've been served. I mean,
That's pretty
that's
funny.
kind of true.
All right. This is a really big question, but I like it. And what is a property manager responsible for knowing and doing at board meetings? All right, keep an eye on our time, but I think this is a great question. It's so broad. John, can you
No, it's
summarize?
very, yeah, so knowing and doing, so there's a management agreement that lays out everything a property manager is supposed to do. Among the duties are to attend board meetings. While the bylaws will have like board meeting protocol, the president sets the agenda and runs it. So the the property manager isn't supposed to run the meeting, but they certainly could be asked, hey, have you gotten bids on these contracts, and what's the status of that? All the property management duties that are in the management agreement, that's what the property manager should be there to explain and answer questions about.
Dave, we just did a great segment on this and spoke about a lot of these aspects on that. Should a manager play devil's advocate segment? I don't know if you remember, and we covered a lot of these kind of items.
Yeah.
It's not out there yet, but that's a good segment for the audience to pick up on. Valerie, I don't know if you were there for that one, but we spent a lot of time on this because this is a gray area for managers also on when they should step in and when they shouldn't, when they should offer advice, when they should not. This seems like kind of the same thing, is it?
Well, I wasn't at that one, but it does sound very similar.
Okay. This is a great idea. I love these ideas because people actually do use them. Thank you for sending it. We have a list of vendors that other residents have had good experiences with, but we don't personally make recommendations. Someone also had commented a little while back that they have a summary of vendors where the owners can recommend people and they just give the piece of paper out. So I think that's a great idea and an easy solution. I don't think any manager should recommend any vendors unless it's an association vendor. They can ask other homeowners. I will tell you that I can see managers definitely regret recommending vendors no matter what they tell people. Look, this happens with us with our friends, right? I recommend my lawn guy and does a bad job on my buddy's house. And my buddy's like, why did you recommend that guy? Like, who needs the aggravation? You know what I mean? I am not recommending because I don't want the responsibility afterwards. I'm just going through this. Nobody wants to recommend vendors.
This is sad. As a business owner, like word of mouth is the best way you get, referrals and business, and you really pride yourself on client satisfaction because you want them to recommend you. And now we're like, nobody can recommend anyone because there's
Right.
potential liability. Crazy.
But it's
people.
obvious why, Valerie. They've been burned.
Sure.
They've been burned.
Understood.
They've tried to help people, and it's probably the vendor probably did a good job, but then Mary runs around and tells everybody they did a bad job. So you can't win. It's awful. Oh, no, wait. Some people are coming in and saying that's ridiculous. I recommend vendors all the time. I think this all depends on your community. Honestly, some communities you're just not going to do it. You're going to be spying versus observation. This is kind of a legal one. You can't spy people, but you can observe, right, Valerie?
I mean, that sounds like semantics because if you're observing without their knowledge, you're spying.
Oh no.
But I need more context for that.
All right. I'm going to have to skip it then because we're going to run out of time and I want to. All right. Can anybody I think they're referring to looking for violations and things like that. If a manager is asked to go find a violation or look in on someone, can they peek over the fence? How far can they go? You want to tackle that, Valerie? Did I give you enough? Not yet.
I would recommend not peeking over the fence. Number one, I think that whenever you're peeking over a fence, you're probably on private property, which there are probably in most governing documents the right to go on to find violations. But in my state, at least, where there's something that's not visible, those are really tough cases. The judges don't really want our HOAs in saying, hey, you can only see it by going in their gate, looking over this thing into their back window. It should be mostly visible from the street. Now, if you have a neighbor who can see into their neighbor's backyard and it's visible to them, then that might be a different situation. But I wouldn't recommend going on to someone's backyard and looking over the fence in order to try to find a violation.
Oh my gosh, that's like a whole other topic. Can you ask a neighbor to send you a picture from their view?
Well, a lot of times you do get violations that are pretty egregious, and all of the evidence is from neighboring lots. It doesn't make it not a violation, and it is affecting other people in the community. But it depends on the governing documents, quite candidly. There's some that actually say certain things are not allowed from the public street or the right-of-way view. So you've got to check your governing documents. But to your point, don't go into someone's backyard and peek over their fence.
Dave, I'm going to make a statement because this comes up a lot. I think a plain devil's advocate, it doesn't mean it's my real opinion. It could be, but you never know. That's my job here. Dave, I think every association should have a rule on behalf of the manager that says no manager should ever go to a board member's home for HOA business. It takes a lot of pressure off the managers and it just saves a lot of aggravation down the road. A management company should have it too. Do you agree or disagree? Because this is an issue where managers are uncomfortable stopping by. Hey, I'm Bob. Stop by and pick up that paperwork at my home. No, you got to bring it to me in the office. Dave.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the pop-ins, manager pop-ins, and going to people's homes for things like that. That's that does create practical issues, but for the lawyer panel, it creates not liability necessarily going there, but a lot of really odd things can come out of that. That could be a real problem.
Here we go. And I'm seeing it. I hate meeting in someone's house.
Yeah,
I
it's
get asked
weird.
all the time. That's two separate managers right off the bat. But then other managers are saying, we absolutely say office meeting only. So, but it's happening. It's happening right now. And there's uncomfortable managers. I think it's terrible. I think the association should do you a break and make it a rule.
Wait. In all fairness, like terrible, like there's some small communities where that's what they do. But I think by far, especially in the condo and high rise, when you have the venue to meet in an office space or something else, then probably more appropriate. But let's not just say all of it's terrible. Some people actually prefer to do that.
It's only good, Valerie.
Legally, that's okay.
It's only okay until you get the one manager that's uncomfortable with the one board member.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's for
What's our time, John?
For my clients, it's actually very common that they meet in a unit because there is no clubhouse.
Yeah.
Well, the meeting is different. I think to me,
yeah, exactly. We're not talking about a meeting. We're talking about just the manager coming by and dropping off stuff at the person's house or something. We're talking about a situation where they're alone, where people are uncomfortable. Okay, soliciting discount coupons. I'm sorry, we don't have time to hit this one. I know managers are constantly being asked to do this one. So, a lot of people don't want to meet in the homes under any circumstances. I know this one because I get a lot of complaints about this one and afterwards. All right, let's do closing thoughts here. We did not go through a whole bunch of them that I thought were really cool, but I'm so glad with the audience participation. All right, John, watch our time. Closing thoughts.
So look at your management agreement, see what you laid out that you're going to do, and then if it's extra work that is not part of your normal duties, you should get paid for it. But you should also list that.
Dave, very quickly, please.
I agree. I agree with John. I think, and Cynthia really had good comments too about sort of the proper role of management. But a lot of these things don't necessarily connect well with lawyer opinions. A lot of it is very practical based and capitalist based. What's working out there in the marketplace, how you can get people to work for you, and how you get clients to hire you. And it varies from location to location.
And I'm not making this up. Someone did say they would love to marry Dave. So, but I don't know. Check with me first or Dave's wife.
What's his name?
I'm not saying. Okay. Valerie, take us out of this, please.
Let's just say, well, this was called responsibilities managers should not accept. And I think one big one that we didn't talk about was just general decision making. Don't let a board say, hey, we don't know what the assessments should be. You decide, and let a manager, or you can decide on waiving fines and late fees. Just make that decision on your own. I think that you need to force boards to make decisions, and you carry out those decisions.
Well, thank you so much, panel. I think we're going to have to do a part 2 on this because there's a lot of stuff we didn't get to, but I thought it was super interesting what we did. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, panel. And I'll see everybody soon. Bye, everybody.
Everyone.